I'm going to take you through this flip. The story of it was sold to me from a wholesaler. So I bought it for $85,000, and the wholesaler, we get to the closing table and I discovered that he had it under contract with the seller for $67,000. So good for him. He made an $18,000 assignment fee, which is great. Backstory is I decided to jump in and try to do some of the repairs myself on this flip. And that is something that I will never do again. And so as you can see here with this, it looks like I pulled the floors up on this house when I first bought it. However, the guy was actually living in there with no floors in there. It was on a slab, but he had no floors, and it had roaches everywhere, and it was just caked. I mean, literally caked and caked and caked with tobacco and like tar. Anyway, he had smoked probably in the house for about 40 years, and I took out a hard money loan on this one. So the first thing I started off with is finding comps. Let's just do a quick general house flip 101. You want to find comps in the area, and we had a really good comp at I think 150,000, same square footage, around the same year built, same bed and bath. This is a 3-bedroom 2-bath house, a large amount of land, which was really, really good. And our comp was just a few doors down and had sold within 6 months. So I knew it was a great comp to go off of. I started off with getting a friend, which was very helpful. And then I TSP'd it. TSP is a solution, and I put a link down below as well to that. And what it does is it takes all the grime off the walls. And it was the best thing I've ever used for something like that. If I had to do it again, this was such a severe case, I would definitely TSP again. But if it was a less severe case and it just had, maybe a few stains or something cosmetic on there, I would just have done a coat of Kilz, like a Kilz oil-based primer. And there's links to that as well. If you don't have a professional paint sprayer, which I don't recommend for anybody but like a professional painter, there's an excellent one that I've used to paint a couple fences of mine. Mortgage payment, I think, was something around $900 a month. I took a construction holdback of about $25,000 on this one. I think we used it all at the end. The cabinets were in good condition. You can see me working with them right now. So they didn't really need anything. We sanded them down and oil-based primed them. And then we did every room. I mean, that took about a week just to do. And then what took way longer than I thought it was going to, we had a 16 by 20 tile floor that I wanted to rip up. And you have to be really careful because there was some certain chemicals that they used in the sealant of tiles back in like the 70s and I believe also early 80s. And you want to wear a mask when you're busting up tile. A lot of people don't wear a mask busting up tile, but you really should. That is something that could be really unhealthy. And we want to do a lot of flips. We don't want to just do one and then die. I just did it by hand, and that was not the vibe. That was something I shouldn't have done. It took forever. It was very painful. I think I had knee pads, but it was still really painful, and it just took a long time. So we eventually retiled it. The countertops were actually fine. They were a material where you could just sand them, and we just put like, I think, epoxy over them again. They were fine. We replaced the sink. You can see all that. Cabinets, it can be saved a lot of times. I think the majority of my flips, I've kept cabinets. They just take a lot to sand down. The trick on making cabinets look a little fresh is to replace kind of the hardware and the brackets on there, because you don't want to mess around with trying to get them clean. They never clean off well enough, and in addition, to replace them for a whole kitchen is probably $100. So don't skimp on that. And I always try to leave something in the budget for tile backsplash. What you really want to think when you're thinking about the design choices and the design elements in a flip, you want to say, what will catch someone's attention in the 2 to 3 seconds that I have them looking on the internet, clicking around for this? We did not replace the windows. Here's the thing. Since we didn't have a big after repair value ARV on this property, you can only design so much. People come and slide into my DMs on Instagram and stuff like that all the time when I post my before and after flip pics, and they say, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Yeah, of course, I would love to put granite countertops and everything, but then that makes it cost prohibitive. And you can't go over the comps very much and still retain your large buyer base. We did get a brand new refrigerator on there. We make everything be able to pass an FHA loan. So FHA loans have certain conditions that you have to meet in order for someone to get a loan for an FHA. And since we're in that first time home buyer price point, we have to make sure that these homes go FHA. Without that excludes a lot of first-time home buyers too. So to bring that up to FHA standards, gives us that first time home buyer market. So that's the strategy that I'm in. We replaced those doors going out to the backyard. It was, I think, about $1,200 because it was hard to fit in, and I had to call some guys to help. And I couldn't get those glass panes clean because what happens is if you have two slabs of glass or whatever, and one kind of cracks, moisture seeps in, and that gives a foggy mirror appearance. And there's really nothing you can do. You can't clean them. You kind of just have to throw them away. We retiled. We did not replace the vanities or anything in the bathrooms. Once again, we had to make a little bit of profit here and still be able to retain and sell to that first-time home buyer. We put down flooring, which was very, very easy. Just tongue and groove flooring that you can get a tool from Lowe's or Home Depot and do it all by hand. You can really do it in about a day and a half. Paint and flooring is something beginners can do. Once you get past that, it's a little tough. We did not scrape the popcorn ceilings. We did in the bathrooms, but we did not in the living room. And we did some exterior paint as well, and the yard was a mess, so we fixed the yard too. And since it was a half acre, that was really expensive. So when it time to list it, the comps had changed a little bit, so more things had closed, so I was able to push the envelope a little bit. And since this is an upward market that we're in and have been in for about 60 odd months now, I always add maybe 1% to 2% higher than what I think the comps will be. That leaves us some negotiation room, and also 9 times out of 10 we're going to be able to push that with the appraiser, and they'll be lenient, and because they'll understand that the market is an increasing market. So I think I listed it for 157 right here. And then we have realtor fees. I listed it myself. If you're going to do more than 2 or 3 flips a year, I would consider getting a real estate license. You would have to pay your fees, your E&O insurance, sign on to a brokerage, and you have to pay your MLS dues, which can be about $2,000 to $3,000 a year cumulatively for all that, and your realtor fees. But if you're doing about 2 or 3, it usually is worth it. And so I listed it myself, and I like the immediacy of being able to respond to an offer really fast, especially in this climate, and to negotiate on your own behalf, because no one's going to care about your stuff like you do, and you know everything that went into the property. I gave the buyer agent 2.5% as opposed to 3%. I just knocked 0.5% off of it. And so if we take that and times it by 997.5, we get 153. They asked for closing costs. You see that a lot in first-time home buyers. They will ask for closing costs to be paid by the seller, which was me. And that allows, gosh, like $3,500 in closing costs, maybe more. So that allows the buyer to wrap up their closing costs into their mortgage. If the seller pays it, like me, and they agree, the buyer agrees to pay 153, but I give them 3% back in seller concessions, seller paid closing costs, then they wrap it up into their mortgage, which means they just have to come to the table with less money. That brings my net to 149 so far. And then we have $500 in attorney's fees on the seller side. We have deed stamps, which is a county tax, and that is 3.7 per every 1,000. So at 140, well, the price would be 153, so it'd be 153 times 3.7. Let's just say another 500 in deed stamps. I had a photographer for 175. I had a lawn guy. He came a couple times. Let's just say 500 for the lawn. And then we have that $25,000 rehab budget. That includes a dumpster. That includes all the materials, like I said, linked below. And then minus the, whatever I bought it for, $85,000. And then also minus the mortgage payments I was making. I held onto this property way longer than I thought I was going to because I was doing other work myself, and I just did not have the energy to get it done. And I had a million other projects going on at the same time. Let's just say it was a 5-month period, and I usually get those bad boys done in 1 month, and then it usually takes about 3 months to sell. Let's just say this was 5 months, and let's just round up the mortgage to about $1,000 a month. So that's 5,000, and then there's another cost, and then there's initial points up front of the mortgage, and I think they charge 3 percentage points, which is about $3,000. So these are roundabout numbers. When it's all said and done, we made about 29,000. I said we, but it's me. About 29,000 from that. And then of course you have your taxes and stuff like that. Around a 20 to 30% cash on cash return, cash in versus cash out with profit is where I want to be. However, I've been letting my margins get lower and lower, which is kind of a risky, dangerous game in flipping. However, the market has been really, really good. So I felt that over the last couple of years, I could get kind of smaller margins and be okay with that because I know that there's a return there. It's a risky strategy. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm just telling you my own personal reasons about why I did it, how it's working for me, and take it or leave it. If you have any questions, let me know. Hope this really helped.